Welcome, sleepy traveler. You've arrived at a quiet space made just for you. My name is Valarie, and I am here to guide you gently into rest, to help ease your mind, soften your body, and drift you toward a peaceful, uninterrupted sleep. Whether your day was long or your thoughts feel a little too loud tonight, let this be your permission to slow down, to breathe, and to simply be. There's nothing more to do now. Just allow my voice to be your guide as we begin this gentle journey toward deep, nourishing rest. If you're new here, subscribe for sleep content like this, and like this video if you find it enjoyable. Let's begin. Take a slow, deep breath in and let it out gently, as if the air is carrying your whole day away. Feel your body begin to soften, releasing the weight it has held. Notice the simple rhythm of your breath, steady and calm. Each inhale invites peace. Each exhale releases what you no longer need. Allow your shoulders to drop. Feel the surface beneath you fully supporting your weight. You are safe here in this quiet space meant just for you. There is no rush, no expectation. Only the gentle unfolding of stillness. Bring your awareness to your face. Let your forehead smooth, easing away the day's expressions. Your eyes are soft, heavy, and completely at rest. Your cheeks and jaw release, letting go of any tension. Even your tongue rests quietly and your lips soften. Your whole face is serene, as if it's smiling softly in sleep. Take another slow breath and notice your neck and shoulders. They've been holding you upright all day. Now let them melt into the surface beneath you. A warm heaviness spreads through your upper arms. Your elbows and forearms sink into comfort. Your hands rest easily, fingers loose and free. Feel your chest rise with an inhale and gently fall with the exhale. Your heartbeat is steady, unhurried, and calm. Each breath carries you deeper into relaxation. Now bring awareness to your belly. Let it soften with every exhale. Your lower back and spine release into the bed. From the top of your shoulders to your hips, everything is at ease. Let this sense of release flow into your legs. Your thighs grow heavy and warm. Your knees and calves loosen. Your ankles, feet, and toes relax completely. From head to toe, your body is wrapped in stillness. Imagine now a soft golden light above your head. It glows gently, warm and comforting. The light slowly begins to drift down, touching the crown of your head. Where it touches, every muscle softens. The golden light moves down your forehead and eyes, across your cheeks and jaw, down into your neck and shoulders. It flows through your arms all the way to your fingertips. Every part of you it touches feels safe and free. The light continues to your chest and heart. Spreading warmth and comfort with each breath. It drifts through your belly and lower back, down into your hips and thighs, through your knees and calves, and finally to your ankles, feet, and toes. Your whole body glows softly now. As if wrapped in a cocoon of peace. Every breath carries you deeper into this gentle safety. In your mind, picture yourself lying under a wide, starry sky. The air is cool and sweet, carrying the scent of night flowers. The grass beneath you is soft and welcoming. Above, the first stars twinkle one by one. Each star feels like a tiny lantern lit just for you. The more you look, the more appear scattered across the velvet sky. The moon rises slowly, bathing everything in silver. Its glow feels protective, like a gentle hand watching over you. You hear the distant trickle of a stream. water flowing softly over smooth stones. The sound is a lullaby, steady and calming. A night breeze brushes your skin, light and cool. Every sensation around you whispers that it's safe to rest. If a thought drifts into your mind, imagine it as a soft cloud, floating through a wide, endless sky. It passes gently, leaving the space above you clear again. There is no need to hold or follow anything. You are free to let everything go. Take a long, easy breath in. And release it slowly. Your body is heavy with rest. Your mind is light, floating in stillness. You are drifting now, safe and warm. The night is holding you in its gentle arms. Every star above you hums a quiet lullaby. Sleep is coming softly, like a tide rolling in. You are ready to surrender to it completely. There is nothing more to do. Only to rest, to dream, to heal. Good night. Rest deeply. And enjoy tonight's bedtime story. I've always believed that every neighborhood has its own quiet song. Some people hear it in the chatter of children playing tag, others in the dogs barking, or in the rumble of trucks backing down driveways. For me, the music of Maplewood Bend begins just as the sun dips low, when the world tucks itself into that golden hush before evening fully arrives. That's when the porch lights flicker on, one by one, like stars testing their glow before the real constellations take over. I live in a sun-faded cottage on the edge of town, with peeling shutters and a garden that insists on growing wild no matter how often I promise myself I'll trim it. My neighbors tease me about it sometimes. "Elowen, your daisies are storming the sidewalk again." But I rather like the way the petals sprawl out as though they're reaching for passerby. My cottage is nothing grand, but the windows turn honey-colored in the evening, and that's enough for me. Each night I gather my little satchel, brushes rattling like spoons in a drawer, a small block of canvas boards, and my folding easel with one stubborn leg that always sinks into the earth if I'm not careful. The ritual feels a little like preparing for a picnic, except instead of sandwiches and lemonade, I pack cobalt blues and warm ochres. The neighbors are used to me now. At first, I think they thought it odd, me setting up across the street from their homes, squinting at their porches as though they were treasures to be deciphered. But once they realized I wasn't spying on their curtains or tallying their comings and goings, they began to wave kindly, sometimes bringing me cups of tea or slices of pie wrapped in foil. Mrs. Alderberry, who lives on the corner with the lilac hedge, once told me she and her husband try to switch on their porch light a little earlier when they see me outside, just so you won't be waiting too long. I told her I didn't mind waiting. That waiting was part of it, actually. But I accepted the slice of apple pie all the same. I've never painted grand things. No sweeping battle scenes or majestic landscapes that take weeks of planning. Instead, I paint porch lights, just porch lights. The way they hum to life, spilling in different shapes depending on the glass, the bulb, the mood of the evening. Some fall soft and round like halos, others beam out sharp and angled, cutting across sidewalks like gold ribbons. To me, each light has its own personality. Take Mr. Benson's house, for instance. His light is a frosted globe that sits just above his door. When it turns on, the glow drips downward like warm honey, making the brick steps look dipped in amber. Meanwhile, the light at the Harringtons, a modern lantern fixed on the side of the porch, casts a tidy rectangle as precise as their perfectly trimmed hedges. And then there's the Turner family's porch, where the bulb is a little dimmer than most, so the light seeps out like a sigh, filling the air with a tender sort of glow. I suppose you could say I collect these lights the way some people collect stamps or seashells. I line the paintings along the walls of my cottage, each canvas a square of evening captured in color. When visitors come, and they rarely do, they're often surprised. "All of these are lights?" they ask, tilting their heads. "Yes," I say, "all of them are lights. Different lights, different evenings, different stories told in golden beams." Tonight I decide to paint the Lawson place, a cream-colored house with ivy that insists on climbing toward the roof, despite Mrs. Lawson's valiant clipping. Their porch light is a hanging lantern with delicate glass panels, and I've always loved the way its glow splinters, scattering shards of warmth across the steps. I set up my easel across the street, tucking the leg firmly into the grass so it won't betray me. The satchel creaks as I open it, the familiar smell of linseed oil curling into the air. A few children dart past, chasing each other with sticks they've declared swords, and one of them shouts, "Are you painting our house next, Miss Elowin?" I smile and shake my head. Not tonight. Tonight belongs to the Lawsons. Waiting is half the magic. I perch on my little stool, sketching faint outlines while the sky softens from blue to rose. Maplewood Bend hums around me, screen doors slapping shut, a lawnmower buzzing faintly down the block, the scent of grilled corn floating on the breeze. I can hear Mrs. Lawson humming in her kitchen with the windows open, a tune I can't quite place but that makes my chest ache with a strange sweetness. Then, at last, the moment, a small click, a spark, and the lantern swells alive. Golden light blooms, slipping between the ivy leaves, dripping onto the porch like spilled cider. My brush hovers, and I feel that familiar tingle in my fingertips, the one that says, "Pay attention, Elowen. This moment will only glow like this once." I dip into my yellows, layering them with a whisper of orange, blending until the canvas begins to pulse with the same quiet warmth before me. My strokes are small and sure, like breathing. Porch lights don't demand drama. They ask for gentleness, for patience. As I paint, people pass and nod. Some pause, curious, before continuing on. A neighbor's cat decides my foot looks like a fine pillow and curls against my ankle, purring like a steady metronome. The air grows cooler, and fireflies begin their own lantern show in the grass. By the time I lean back, satisfied, the sky has deepened into twilight. The Lawson lantern shimmers both on the porch and on my canvas, twin beacons across the street from one another. I pack my brushes slowly, reluctant to end the evening's rhythm. "Lovely, isn't it?" Mrs. Lawson's voice floats across as she steps onto her porch, drying her hands on a dish towel. She glances up at her lantern, then at me. "Very lovely," I reply. "Your light has the softest edges." She laughs lightly, though I can tell she doesn't fully understand. Most people don't, and that's all right. Some things are meant to be felt rather than explained. When I finally walk home, easel tucked under one arm, the neighborhood glows with dozens of porch lights, each shining its own story. To anyone else, it might look like an ordinary evening, houses lining the street as they always have. But to me, Maplewood Bend is a gallery of golden hours, every home a frame, every porch a canvas. And as I close the gate to my little cottage, I can't help but think that perhaps one day, when my walls are covered floor to ceiling, I'll invite the whole town inside to see themselves as I see them. Not just houses, but beacons of warmth, each with a light worth painting. For now, though, I make a cup of chamomile tea, hang tonight's canvas in the row by the window, and watch as the last of the daylight fades. The glow lingers, both outside and in my chest, like a promise that tomorrow's golden hour will bring another story, another spill of light waiting to be captured. I have a secret, though if you live in Maplewood Bend, it may not be much of one anymore. It started small, as most gentle things do. After I finish each painting, when the brushes are washed and the canvas is still faintly damp, I sit at my little oak desk by the window and write a letter. Nothing elaborate, just a handful of sentences, scribbled in my uneven script, about what I saw in the light that night. I don't sign them. I never wanted this to feel like a performance or a way of asking for praise. It's simply a way of giving back. The porch lights give me something to paint, something steady and warm, and I want to return that glow in some way. My letters are soft, almost like whispered thoughts. Your porch light reminded me of a lighthouse. It made the evening feel safe. Or, the way your lantern spilled through the ivy looked like a secret garden blooming. Or sometimes, I think your light and the fireflies are friends. They were dancing together tonight. I tuck each note into a plain brown envelope, along with the painting I made of their porch. On the front, I write nothing but their address. Then, under the velvet hush of twilight, I slip it into their mailbox and walk quickly away before anyone can see me. The first time I did it, I felt my heart hammer as though I were a thief. But instead of stealing, I was leaving something behind. The first painting I ever delivered belonged to Mrs. Alden, a retired schoolteacher who lived alone in a cozy house with curtains embroidered by hand. Her porch light was a round glass globe, so clear it seemed to float above the door like a pearl. When I painted it, the light made her walkway glow like a spilled necklace of gold. My letter to her read, "Your light shines like a pearl, steady and kind. It made the night gentler." I left it in her mailbox on a cool Friday evening, the envelope wedged between grocery flyers. All weekend I wondered what she'd think. Would she open it at all? Would she throw it away, thinking it some odd advertisement? On Monday morning, when I stepped outside to gather my own mail, I found a small cream-colored envelope resting on top of my box. Inside was a thank you card decorated with painted violets. The words in neat, looping handwriting read, "Dear unknown friend, I cried happy tears when I saw your gift. I have not felt seen in a very long time. Thank you." I held that card against my chest, the paper still warm from the sun. My throat tightened, and I felt both joy and sorrow tumble together. To think that a small painting and a few words could mean something. It was more than I ever expected. After that, I couldn't stop. The tradition grew quietly, like ivy curling along a fence. I would paint, then I would write. Sometimes I wrote about the way the light looked, but sometimes I wrote about what I felt in its presence. Tonight your light was brave, standing against the storm. I imagine it kept you safe, too. Your porch light looks like it carries music. The glow sways as though someone is humming. I painted your light tonight, and it reminded me that every home carries its own story. I slipped these envelopes into mailboxes and walked away, always a little shy, always a little afraid. And then the replies began to arrive. Some in my mailbox, some tucked under my door, some handed to me by neighbors who guessed I was the one behind the letters. Mrs. Alden's thank you card had opened a door I didn't realize the neighborhood had been waiting for. Mr. Benson, the widower with the honey-dripped steps, left a folded note that simply said, "I didn't think anyone noticed my light. My late wife chose it. Thank you for reminding me she's still here in little ways." The Turner family taped a child's crayon drawing to my gate, yellow scribbles radiating from a circle labeled "Our Light." The Harringtons, who were always precise and proper, left a small bouquet of trimmed roses on my stoop, along with a card that read, "You reminded us to notice what we've had all along. We've lived here 20 years and never realized how beautiful our own lantern is." And so Maplewood Bend began to hum with letters and light. Sometimes when I leave the brown envelopes, I pause for a moment before slipping them into the box. I imagine the moment of discovery, the surprise of opening a plain envelope, the curiosity of pulling out a canvas, the quiet breath when they read words written only for them. I imagine their smiles or their tears. I don't expect replies, but when they come, they feel like fireflies landing on my palm. Delicate, fleeting, miraculous. Of course, not everyone answers. Some people simply take the painting and say nothing, but that's all right. I don't do this for thanks. I do it because the act itself feels like a prayer, a small offering to the quiet beauty that surrounds us. There's a drawer in my desk now filled with the responses. I keep every single one. Cards with flowers, notes on lined paper, children's drawings, even a recipe for blueberry muffins written in Mrs. Lawson's careful script. "Because you always sit across from my porch," she wrote, "and you look like someone who enjoys muffins." Some nights, when I feel especially alone, I open the drawer and read through them. I never realized how many lives a neighborhood holds, each light carrying its own griefs and joys, each porch a stage for invisible stories. My letters, it seems, have given those stories a chance to breathe. One evening, after painting the Lawson lantern with its splintered golden shards, I walked home under the gathering dusk. Just as I reached my garden gate, a voice called softly, "Elowen?" I turned, startled, and found Mrs. Alden standing there, her cardigan wrapped tightly around her shoulders. She held one of my brown envelopes in her hand, the flap carefully opened. "I knew it was you," she said gently. "I recognized your handwriting from the grocery list you left behind in the shop last month." My face flushed hot and I stammered, I never meant for anyone to know. I didn't want it to seem like..." She stepped closer, eyes shining in the last of the twilight. "Don't be embarrassed. What you're doing it's kindness in its purest form, and Maplewood Bend needed that more than you know." Her words wrapped around me like a shawl, warm and heavy with meaning. I didn't know what to say, so I only nodded, clutching my satchel. "Keep writing," she said softly. "Keep painting. It matters." And with that, she slipped the letter back into her pocket and walked down the lane, her own porch light already glowing like a pearl waiting at the end of her path. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by my window with a candle flickering and thought about what Mrs. Alden had said. Could it really matter, these little notes and brushstrokes? Could such small things ripple outward into something larger? The drawer full of thank you cards said yes. The smiles I glimpsed on neighbors' faces said yes. The way Maplewood Bend seemed brighter somehow, its porch lights twinkling with pride, said yes. I realized then that what I was doing wasn't just painting. It was a conversation, a silent, golden dialogue between me and the town I called home. And so I promised myself I would keep going, painting, writing, leaving brown envelopes like breadcrumbs of light, because every porch deserves to be seen, Every glow deserves to be framed, and every person deserves a letter that tells them, "You matter. You are not invisible. Your light is part of the song." The next morning, I washed my brushes, stretched a new canvas, and carried my easel out to the street. Another evening waited, another light to catch, another letter to write, and perhaps another story waiting to be kindled in the glow. If you were to walk through Maplewood Bend now at the right hour, you might notice something curious. As the sun slides down and the air softens to lavender, neighbors don't rush inside as quickly as they once did. They linger. They pause at their doors, glancing up as their porch lights blink on, almost as if they're waiting for something or someone. It humbles me, this shift. When I first began painting, I thought of it as a private ritual. Just me, my brushes, and the steady glow of a lamp or lantern. But now I feel as though the whole neighborhood is part of it, leaning into the golden hush with me. I've painted many porches since those first timid evenings. Each one tells its own story. One of my favorites belongs to Mr. Calloway, a single father who lives with his little boy in the blue house with the wide wraparound porch. His light is temperamental, flickering before it steadies, like a candle flame fighting the wind. I painted it one evening as his son rode his tricycle in circles, singing nonsense songs to himself. The porch light sputtered and glowed, and I found myself capturing that rhythm on canvas, bright strokes layered with faint shadows, as though the painting itself breathed. In the letter I left them, I wrote, "Your porch light is like a heartbeat. It flickers, but it never fails. It feels alive." A few days later, I found a drawing in my mailbox, scribbled crayon lines of yellow zigzags with the words, spelled unevenly, "Our light is strong." I tacked it above my desk. Then there's the Ramirez family who string twinkle lights across their porch every summer and eat their dinners outside, even when the air hums with mosquitoes. Their porch glows not with a single bulb, but with dozens of little sparks, strung like constellations in a domestic sky. The first time I painted them, I tried to capture not just the light, but the laughter, the way it shimmered along the air as forks clinked and children shouted for more lemonade. In my letter, I wrote, "Your lights look like a galaxy gathered in one place. Thank you for letting me sit beneath your stars." One evening, weeks later, I walked by and found a plate of sugar cookies left neatly on the spot where I usually set up my easel. A note tucked beneath it read, "For our star painter, come back any time." And the Kleins, the elderly couple who live in the cedar house with the creaky front step. Their lantern is older than both of them, I think. It hangs from a rusty chain and sways with the slightest breeze. Its glow is soft, almost weary, yet it casts the most faithful circle of light I've ever known. I painted it on a night when Mr. Klein sat outside whittling and Mrs. Klein hummed to herself on the porch swing. The lantern bathed them in gold, and for a moment I thought, this is what time looks like when it chooses to be kind. My letter to them said, Your light is a storyteller. It creaks and sways, but it never falters. It makes the night feel patient. A week later, a small bundle of lavender appeared on my doorstep, tied with twine. No note, but I knew who it was from. The scent filled my cottage for days. What amazes me most is not the lights themselves, but the way people have begun to notice them too. I'll catch glimpses. Mr. Calloway standing still on his porch for a long moment before stepping inside. The Ramirez children pointing at their twinkle lights with sudden pride. Mrs. Klein brushing her hand over the lantern as though it were an old friend. It's as if Maplewood Bend has learned to see its own glow. And then there are the little gestures. Some evenings, when I carry my easel to a new spot, I'll find things waiting for me. A small bouquet of daisies left in a jar, a slice of banana bread wrapped in wax paper. Once, even a steaming mug of tea sitting carefully on the railing, still warm. It feels as though the neighborhood has turned itself inside out, offering back the kindness I never asked for but will always treasure. Of course, I never paint expecting a gift. The gift is the light itself, the chance to watch it bloom and spill across wood and stone. But the gestures remind me of something I often forget. That kindness multiplies when you let it. There's a particular evening I'll never forget. I had chosen a quiet house at the far end of the street, one I hadn't painted before. Its porch light was nothing extraordinary, a simple fixture with a frosted bulb. But I was drawn to the way its glow reached toward the garden path, brushing the tops of the marigolds. I set up my easel, began mixing paints, and soon fell into the rhythm of brush and breath. But as I worked, I noticed something. The front door opened slightly, and a woman stepped out. She didn't speak, just sat in the rocking chair and folded her hands in her lap. She looked tired, her shoulders rounded with some unseen weight. But as the porch light glowed, she lifted her face toward it, and for a fleeting moment her expression softened. I painted faster, wanting to capture that fleeting grace, the way the light seemed to hold her, a gentle companion in her silence. When I left the painting and my letter by her mailbox later that night, my hand trembled. I wrote only this: "Your light held you tenderly tonight. I saw it. I painted it." The next morning, when I opened my own mailbox, there was a note. It was scrawled in hurried pen, almost shaky, but the words pierced me. "Thank you. I needed to believe someone still sees me." I held that note for a long time. Sometimes I still do. It's strange to think how much a single light can mean. To most, it's only a bulb or a lantern, a switch flipped without thought. But to me, and now I think to many in Maplewood Bend, it's something deeper. It's safety, it's memory, it's presence. It's the quiet promise that even in darkness, there is always something to guide you home. On some evenings, I walk the streets without my easel, just watching. The porches shine like little altars. Some glow proudly, others shyly, but all of them hum with their own warmth. I notice the way people touch their railings as they step inside, or pause to watch the moths gather in the glow, or smile at neighbors across the street, sharing a moment without words. It's as though the lights themselves have become storytellers, and I am only their scribe. Sometimes I wonder where this will lead. My cottage is already lined with canvases, each one a fragment of Maplewood Bend at dusk. The walls look like a quilt made of golden squares, stitched together by brushstrokes and memory. When I sit among them, sipping tea, I feel as though I'm sitting in the heart of the neighborhood itself, its lights gathered around me like a family. Perhaps one day I'll invite everyone to see the collection. Perhaps we'll gather in my sun-faded cottage, surrounded by their own lights reflected back at them, and we'll share stories about what those glows have meant. But for now, I'm content with the quiet exchanges, the letters, the flowers, the cookies left on railings, the unspoken gratitude in a neighbor's eyes. Because in the end, that's all I wanted when I first set up my easel across from Mrs. Alden's porch, to honor the small, steady things that make life gentler, to remind us all that even the simplest light can carry a story worth telling. And Maplewood Bend, my little town of porches and lanterns, is shining brighter for it. There are some houses in Maplewood Bend I've come to depend on, even if their owners don't know it. A certain rhythm emerges when you walk these streets each evening, the slow sequence of porch lights blooming one after another, like a string of pearls being clasped. I've memorized them. I know which light comes first, which one lingers, which one flickers stubbornly before surrendering to the dusk. One house in particular had always felt like a constant to me. It was a small, tidy brick home with a porch lamp that shone steady amber, never wavering, never late. I'd painted it twice before, once on a winter night when its glow dusted the snow like cinnamon, and once in summer when moths drifted around it as if orbiting a sun. It wasn't the grandest light in the neighborhood, but it carried something dependable, like the heartbeat of the street. So imagine my surprise when, one evening, I rounded the bend and found it dark. The porch sat in shadow. The windows were curtained, and the air felt heavier than usual, as though the absence of that one glow had pulled the whole street into a quiet frown. I stopped in my tracks, clutching the strap of my satchel. I waited for a moment, certain I'd see it flicker to life. But nothing happened. The house stayed dim. A small ache stirred in me. Perhaps it was something simple, a burnt-out bulb, a forgotten switch. And yet, the stillness felt different, like silence after a song you've grown used to hearing. I set up my easel across the street out of habit, but when I opened my paints, my hand hovered uselessly. What was there to capture when the light was gone? The canvas stared back at me, blank and expectant, but my brush refused to move. Finally, I packed everything away, but not before leaving something behind. I took one of my smaller canvases, empty, unmarked, a square of white waiting for a story, and placed it gently on their steps. I tore a page from my notebook and wrote a single line. If the light returns, I'll be nearby. I tucked the note under the canvas so the breeze wouldn't take it, and then I walked home, my steps slower than usual. That night, my own cottage felt dimmer too, as though the absence of that one porch light had followed me inside. Days passed. Each evening I checked. Each evening the house remained dark. I painted other porches, of course. Mr. Calloway's flickering lamp, the Ramirez family's string lights. But my eyes always strayed back to that quiet brick house, watching for the glow that never came. I wondered about the person inside. Were they ill? Had something happened? Was it grief, loneliness, or simply forgetfulness? I didn't know, and it wasn't my place to pry. But I couldn't help worrying, the way you worry about a bird that stops singing. On the fourth night, I lingered across the street, arms wrapped around myself as the sky deepened. A thought crossed my mind. Perhaps the canvas I'd left had been thrown away. Perhaps my note had been ignored. And yet, even that possibility felt better than the void of not knowing. I whispered aloud to the empty porch, "I'll wait." My voice barely carried, but it was enough to steady me. On the fifth evening, everything changed. I was walking home from painting the Klein's lantern when, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. The faintest glimmer at the brick house. I stopped, breath catching. The porch lamp flickered once, twice, then finally steadied, spilling its amber glow across the steps just as it always had. My heart leapt. I crossed the street without thinking, drawn to that familiar circle of light, and there, resting on the step where I'd left the blank canvas, was an envelope. It was plain, sealed with a bit of tape, my own handwriting visible on the note beneath it. I picked it up with trembling hands and opened it right there in the glow. Inside was a short reply, written in a slanting hand. "Your note helped. I'd forgotten how much light mattered." I read it twice, then pressed the paper to my chest. My throat tightened, tears stinging the corners of my eyes. Whoever they were, whatever had kept their light dim, they had found a way to turn it back on, and somehow my small gesture had played a part. That night, I set up my easel once more across the street. This time, the canvas did not resist me. My brush moved eagerly, almost reverently, layering strokes of amber and gold, soft edges spilling into the darkness. I painted not just the light, but the story of its return, the fragile shimmer of resilience, the quiet strength of something rekindled. As I painted, the street seemed to lean in closer. Moths drifted toward the glow. A breeze stirred the ivy, scattering shadows across the steps. Even the silence felt different, lighter, as though the house itself was breathing again. I worked until my wrist ached, until the glow on the canvas mirrored the one before me. And when I leaned back, I knew it was one of the most important paintings I had ever made. Not because it was perfect, but because it carried meaning deeper than color. Before leaving, I wrote a new letter. "Your light tonight was braver than any I've painted. Thank you for bringing it back." I left the canvas and letter together in a brown envelope, placing it gently by their mailbox. Then I walked home with a heart full to bursting. In the days that followed, I noticed a subtle shift in the neighborhood. It wasn't just me who saw the lights return. Others seemed to notice too. Neighbors walking by would glance at the house with a quiet smile, as if reassured by its glow. The Ramirez children pointed at it one evening and said, "Look, it's shining again?" And I realized something important. When one light goes out, it's not just the person inside who feels it. The whole street feels the absence. And when it returns, the whole street feels that too. Weeks later, I still think about that house. I wonder about the person who lives there, about the words they wrote. I'd forgotten how much light mattered. I know that forgetting can happen easily. Life grows heavy and it's easy to stop noticing small things. But remembering, that's the gift. That's what brings you back to yourself. Sometimes I walk past that porch even when I'm not painting, just to see its steady amber glow. It has become a symbol to me, a reminder that even when lights go out, they can return, that even when we forget, we can be reminded. At night, when I sit in my cottage surrounded by canvases, I often think about that missing light, about the blank canvas I left behind, about the note I found in return. It feels almost like a shared secret between me and the house, something fragile and precious. And I wonder, perhaps that's the true purpose of what I've been doing all along. Not just to paint lights as they are, but to remind people, my neighbors, myself, that light matters, that it holds us, steadies us, connects us, that even in our darkest evenings, we can wait for the flicker and believe in its return. So now, as I prepare my brushes each evening, I pause before I leave. I whisper to myself, as though to the whole of Maplewood Bend, keep your lights on if you can, and if you can't, I'll wait with you until you're ready. And then I step into the dusk, eager for whatever glow the night will bring. I never thought my quiet habit would grow into something larger than myself. I began with nothing more than a satchel of brushes, a shaky easel, and the desire to capture light before it disappeared into night. But Maplewood Bend has a way of surprising me. Over time, the town has turned into something like a canvas too, each neighbor adding their own strokes, their own glow, until what began as my solitary ritual has become a shared picture. As the seasons shifted, I noticed it first in small ways. A lantern switched on earlier than usual, as if someone didn't want me waiting in the dusk too long. A wreath hung around a lamp, its needles glistening with frost, making the glow feel dressed for the season. A family tying ribbons along their railing, so the porch light shimmered against them like falling stars. The decorations weren't extravagant, just thoughtful touches. A jar of marigolds beneath a step, a paper lantern swinging from a beam, a curtain pulled back so the interior light spilled outward. It felt as though the town itself was beginning to expect me, to welcome me, to invite me closer. I tried not to cry the first time I realized it, but the truth is, I did. The letters came next. Folded scraps of paper slipped into my mailbox, notes tucked into porch railings, cards left where I had once sat to paint. They were not grand declarations, but they filled me with a warmth no brush could fully capture. Your painting of our light made us see home differently. I keep your letter by my bedside. It reminds me to switch the lamp on when I feel low. Thank you for noticing what the rest of us forgot to notice. Some were signed, others anonymous. One was written on the back of a grocery list. Another came in careful cursive on stationery embossed with roses. Each note was a small lantern of its own, and together they lit a path back to me, reminding me that what I was doing mattered. Sometimes, when the nights felt especially long, I would take out the bundle of them and read. They stitched together a story bigger than myself, a story of a town remembering its own light. And then came the children. It was a mild autumn evening when a little girl named Clara tugged on my sleeve while I was painting her family's porch. She had a mess of curls and a shy smile, and in her hands she clutched a crayon sketch on printer paper. "I tried too," she said, showing me the drawing. It was all uneven lines and bright yellow scribbles, but the light was unmistakable. A big glowing sun had been drawn right above the doorway, spilling rays across the page. "Clara," I whispered, my throat thick, "it's beautiful." Her eyes lit up. "Can I sit with you while you paint ours?" I nodded, shifting my stool to make room. She plopped down beside me, spreading her crayons across the step, and for the next hour we worked in companionable silence. Her with her waxy yellows and oranges, me with my oils. Every now and then she glanced at my canvas and tried to copy what I was doing, though her lines always went their own way. When I finished, I leaned over and whispered, "Would you like to sign this one with me?" She gasped, as though I'd given her the stars. Together we scrawled our initials in the corner of the painting, side by side. Later that night, when I left the envelope by her family's mailbox, I tucked her drawing inside as well. From that evening on, other children began to notice me too. Sometimes they waved shyly from windows. Sometimes they darted outside to watch for a minute or two, holding sticks of chalk or stubby markers. It was as if the glow of porch lights had reminded them that they could make light of their own. I often wonder if Maplewood Bend realizes what it has become. A town of glowing porches, yes, but more than that, a town that pays attention. A place where neighbors stop to notice the spill of amber across their steps, the moths dancing in the glow, the way a simple light can transform wood and stone into something sacred. And I, who once walked alone with my easel, now feel accompanied by every letter, every flower, every child's crayon sketch. The first frost came last week. I set up my easel across from the Benson house, where the porch light glittered against the sheen of ice. As I painted, Mr. Benson stepped outside with a steaming mug in hand. "For you," he said, placing it beside me. "Hot cider." I smiled, thanking him, and he added softly, "I wait for your letters now." They remind me she's still here in small ways. His voice cracked, and I understood. He meant his late wife, the one who had chosen their porch lamp. I wanted to say something profound, something worthy of the moment, but all I managed was, "Her light is still here." And we both looked at the porch lamp, its honey glow steady in the cold. By the time winter deepened, Maplewood Bend no longer needed me to remind it of its lights. The town had learned to remind itself. Lanterns were hung with garlands, bulbs replaced quickly, steps swept clear so glows could spill freely. The neighborhood had become its own gallery, and I merely wandered among the frames. And yet, every evening, as golden hour melted into blue, I still shouldered my satchel. Not because the town depended on me now, but because I had become part of the rhythm. Maplewood Bend had given me a family in its glow. The story reached its tender peak one evening in early spring. I was walking through town at golden hour, my satchel heavy with brushes and canvases, when I realized something. The porches were glowing before I even arrived. Lights clicked on earlier than they ever had, as if the town itself anticipated my steps. Some porches had little decorations, paper lanterns, potted flowers, colorful scarves tied around posts, like frames waiting for a painter's touch. A few neighbors waved as I passed, and I caught glimpses of folded notes tucked into railings, waiting for me to find them. Children sat cross-legged on steps, crayons in hand, hoping I might pause at their house next. The air shimmered with it, expectation, kindness, glow, and in that moment, I realized the truth. Maplewood Bend was no longer just the place where I painted porch lights. It had become the place where porch lights painted us, shaping us into people who noticed, who shared, who waited together for the golden hour. That evening, I didn't set up my easel. Instead, I walked slowly, letting the satchel rest against my hip, listening to the town hum with its glow. I passed porches I had painted before, and ones I hadn't yet touched, each shining like a candle lit in gratitude. At the corner of the lane, I stopped and turned, watching as the whole street shimmered in amber, gold, and soft white. It looked like a river of light flowing both directions, toward me and beyond me. My chest ached with a fullness I couldn't name. I whispered, "Thank you," to no one and everyone. Then I kept walking, my satchel heavy with brushes, my heart light with the knowledge that Maplewood Bend would never be dark again, because now the porch light shone both ways. That brings tonight's bedtime session to a gentle close. Thank you so much for spending this quiet moment with me. If you'd like, feel free to stay and drift deeper into sleep with the soft sounds of rain in the background.